You're at the playground. The sun is shining, the weather is perfect, and your kids are running toward the big climbing structure. Most parents are sitting on the benches, drinking coffee, casually scrolling on their phones. But not you. You are standing at the edge of the wood chips, and your brain is currently running a high-speed, high-definition simulation of a disaster movie. You don't just see your child climbing, you see their foot slipping. You see the exact angle they will fall. You see the trip to the emergency room. Your heart rate spikes, your chest gets tight, and before anything has actually happened, your body is physically reacting to a tragedy that only exists in your mind. And then there's the second layer. As you hover near the slide, you feel the eyes of the other parents burning into your back. You start hyper-analyzing their casual glances. You think, they think I'm a helicopter parent. They're judging how I raise my kids. They think I'm crazy. You are physically at a sunny park, but mentally, you are fighting for your life. If this sounds familiar, you're not crazy, and you're not just an anxious person. Your brain is running a specific loop called catastrophizing, and for the ADHD brain, it isn't a bad habit. It's wiring. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what's happening inside your head when a friend's short text or a kid on a tall slide hijacks your entire nervous system. And then, this is the part that actually changes things. 3 ways to interrupt the loop before it eats your whole day. To the outside world, you look like a worrywart. People probably tell you to just relax or stop overthinking it. But what they don't understand is that for a neurodivergent mind, catastrophizing isn't a choice, it is a biological event. For years, we've treated catastrophizing as just a symptom of general anxiety. But recent studies into the ADHD brain show a completely different picture. It comes down to something called emotional dysregulation. Think of your brain like a car. The amygdala is the gas pedal. It's the emotional center, the alarm system that tells you when you're in danger or when you should be panicked. The prefrontal cortex, located right behind your forehead, is the braking system. It's the logical CEO of your brain. It tells you to pause, look at the facts, and calm down. In a typical brain, when a perceived threat appears, like your kid climbing a bit too high, the amygdala sounds the alarm. But a fraction of a second later, the prefrontal cortex hits the brakes and says, "Wait. They're only 3 feet off the ground and there are soft wood chips underneath. We're fine." But brain imaging shows that in ADHD, the prefrontal cortex is often underactive and the communication between the alarm system and the brakes is delayed. You've got a fast accelerator and a slow brake. The alarm goes off instantly, but the brake takes too long to show up to work. By the time logic finally arrives, the flood of stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, has already washed over your body. Your heart is racing, your muscles are tense, you literally feel the physical pain of the worst-case scenario before it ever happens. You can't just relax because your body genuinely believes you're in the middle of an active crisis. So why does the ADHD brain specifically get stuck in this loop so often? There are 3 glitches stacking on top of each other here, and once you see them, you can't unsee them. Pillar 1. Hypervigilance and Rejection Sensitive Dysphoria. Let's go back to that feeling of being judged by the other parents at the park. Why does a stranger's neutral facial expression suddenly feel like a personal attack? 2 things are colliding here. The first is hypervigilance, your nervous system stuck in scan mode, sweeping the room for threats it can't quite name. In the wild, this kept you safe from predators. In modern life, the predators are social, rejection, embarrassment, failure. The second has a clinical label, Rejection Sensitive Dysphoria, or RSD. But here's what it actually feels like. Rejection doesn't sting, it detonates. Because people with ADHD receive significantly more negative feedback and criticism throughout childhood than their neurotypical peers, your brain has learned that the world is not always a safe place. So you develop a radar system that's almost too good. You pick up on microscopic shifts in people's behavior. A text message without an emoji. A friend who takes 3 hours to reply. A parent at the park who glances in your direction. Your brain takes that tiny piece of data, and because of RSD, it amplifies it into a catastrophic social failure. You don't just think, that mom disagreed with me. You think, everyone here hates me, I am a terrible parent, and I don't belong anywhere. Pillar 2. Time blindness and emotional stickiness. One of the most profound deficits in ADHD is how we perceive time. Dr. Ned Hallowell famously said that for the ADHD brain, there are only 2 time zones, now and not now. When you get caught in a catastrophizing spiral, time blindness becomes your worst enemy. Because your brain struggles to project into the future, whatever emotion you're feeling right now feels like it's going to last forever. Clinical psychologists call this emotional stickiness. When your mind jumps to the worst-case scenario, say, making a mistake at work and assuming you'll be fired and lose your house, you can't easily access the memory of all the past times things turned out okay. You're trapped in the now of the panic. Your brain literally loses its map of time, making the catastrophic emotion feel inescapable and permanent. Pillar 3. The working memory glitch. Working memory is the brain's scratch pad, the ability to hold information in your mind and use it in real time. In ADHD, working memory is notoriously faulty. So picture yourself back at that climbing structure. The alarm bells start ringing, and in that exact moment, you need your working memory to pull up the file that says, "They've climbed this thing 20 times and never once fallen." You need to remember that your boss praised your work just last week. But under the stress of an emotional flood, your working memory drops the files. You forget your own track record of surviving 100% of your bad days. And without access to the data of your past successes, the worst-case scenario is the only information left on the scratch pad. If you see yourself in this, I want you to pause and take a deep breath. For years, you've probably beaten yourself up for being a pessimist or a toxic worrier. But I need you to understand something crucial about your brain. Catastrophizing is not a character flaw, it is a misguided protective mechanism. Your brain's threat detection system evolved to keep you safe. It's operating on a very simple primal rule. It is better to overreact to a false alarm than to underreact to real danger. When you map out every single way a situation could go wrong, your brain is actually trying to protect you. It's saying, if I can predict the disaster, I won't be caught off guard. If I can imagine the rejection, it won't hurt as much when it happens. You are not broken. You just have a highly active imagination paired with a nervous system that cares deeply about keeping you safe. The problem is that this protective system is incredibly expensive. It costs you your peace, your energy, and your ability to live in the present moment. The goal isn't to stop feeling emotions. The goal is to build a bridge between your alarm system and your logical CEO. You can't always stop the initial spark of panic, but you can stop pouring gasoline on it. Here are 3 clinical, ADHD-friendly strategies to break the loop. Strategy 1. The and then what protocol. When your brain hits you with a catastrophic what if, you usually freeze at the worst part of the movie. What if I mess up this presentation? What if my kid falls? Instead of fighting the thought, you play the tape forward. You ask yourself out loud, and then what? By forcing your brain to walk through the steps after the imagined disaster, you re-engage your prefrontal cortex. You remind your nervous system that even if the worst happens, you have the capacity to handle it. You don't stop at the crash, you visualize the recovery. Strategy 2. The physiological interrupt. When you're in the middle of a catastrophic spiral, you're dealing with a cortisol flood, and you cannot outthink a chemical reaction. Trying to logic your way out of a panic attack is like trying to reason with a burning building. Before you can change your thoughts, you have to change your body. You need a physiological interrupt, something that shifts your physical state before you touch the thought. So, walk out of the room that set you off, splash cold water on your face. That one actually triggers something called the mammalian dive reflex, and your heart rate drops on its own. Or do 20 jumping jacks and burn the adrenaline off. None of this is woo. You're draining the chemical first so that the logical part of your brain can come back online second. Strategy 3. Externalize the evidence. Because your working memory drops the files when you're stressed, you can't rely on your brain to remind you that you're safe. You have to externalize the evidence. Keep a resilience log on your phone. Write down the times you were certain something terrible was going to happen, and it turned out fine. Keep a physical folder of kind emails and text messages from friends and colleagues, so when the rejection sensitive dysphoria hits and your brain insists everyone is judging you, don't try to search your memory for proof. Open the folder. Look at the physical evidence of your worth. Outsource your memory to something you can see and hold. If you spend your days bracing for impact, exhausted by a brain that constantly writes tragedy, please hear this. You are not too sensitive. You are not a burden. You are a deeply perceptive person navigating a world with a nervous system that feels everything at maximum volume. Your capacity to foresee danger is the exact same capacity that makes you incredibly empathetic, fiercely protective, and deeply caring. You don't need to cure your brain. You just need to learn to carry an umbrella for the storms, instead of assuming the rain will never end. Now, I want to hear from you. What is the most illogical worst-case scenario your brain has ever convinced you was real? Share it in the comments. When we talk about these things openly, we strip the shame right out of them. And if this video helped you understand your own mind a little better, hit subscribe. We're building a community where your intense, beautiful, complicated brain is finally understood. I'll see you in the next one.